I thought I had married the love of my life, but I was just her backup plan for money. When I uncovered the truth, I didn't explode. I dismantled her world, piece by piece. I will never forget the way her hand felt in mine that day, soft, warm, with just the slightest tremble. Like she could not believe the moment was real either. Her name was Madison, and on the day we got married, I stood there grinning like a fool, thinking I had just won the emotional lottery. The air smelled like lilacs and cut grass. Sunlight spilled across the rows of folding chairs. My Uncle Jim cried. I did not think he had cried in 20 years. People kept telling me how lucky I was, that she was way out of my league. I laughed and agreed, because I knew it too. Madison had this way of making you feel like the only person in the room. She could disarm strangers with one glance, and when she laughed, it always caught you off guard in a good way. Like something in the world had just clicked into place. I had worked my tail off for everything. Grew up in a trailer outside of Akron, single mom, never had much. Got my HVAC certification and started my own small business by the time I was 24. Nothing fancy, just long days, busted knuckles, and sweat-soaked shirts. But I built it from nothing. And when Madison came into my life, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I was finally allowed to be happy. We met at a friend's 4th of July cookout. She was wearing this faded denim jacket and red Converse shoes, sipping lemonade like she was immune to the heat. I was smitten in under 10 minutes. She said I made her laugh like no one else. I believed every word. Within 6 months, we had moved in together. Within 2 years, we were married. That day, the wedding, it felt like everything I had fought for had finally paid off. But looking back now, I realized something was off. I should have seen it. Should have noticed the small cracks beneath the smiles. The way she flinched when money came up. How her eyes sometimes darted to my bank statements when she thought I was not paying attention. There was one moment that still haunts me. A few nights before the wedding, I caught her crying in the kitchen, real quiet, trying not to wake me. I asked her what was wrong, and she told me she was just overwhelmed with love. That is what she said. Overwhelmed with love. And I believed her. I believed every single word. I had no idea what kind of storm was waiting just around the corner. And then, one evening, everything changed. It happened on a regular Tuesday. Not a holiday. Not our anniversary. Just a plain old Tuesday. I had grilled burgers for dinner, cracked open a couple of sodas, and we were halfway through a rerun of The Office when she paused the TV, turned to me, and said she wanted to talk. Now, when a spouse says that, I want to talk, it can mean anything. I assumed maybe she was upset about my long hours, or maybe something happened with her sister again. I braced myself for a tough conversation, but nothing in the world could have prepared me for what she was about to say. She looked different. Not angry, not sad exactly, just tired. Like she had been carrying something around for a long time and her arms finally gave out. Her hands were folded neatly in her lap, and she stared at them like they might tell her what to do next. And then she said it. She told me she did not marry me for love. I just sat there, still as a statue, like maybe I had misheard. She went on, slow and steady, like she had practiced the words in front of a mirror. She told me she cared about me, respected me, appreciated all I had done for her, but she had never been in love with me. My mind tried to make sense of it, tried to rewind to every moment we had shared and reframe it under this new, twisted light. I could barely breathe. And then came the part that gutted me. She said the reason she married me was because I made her feel safe. Financially safe. Those were her exact words. Financially safe. She had grown up in chaos. Her dad was a gambler. Her mom bounced between boyfriends. And by age 12, she had figured out how to boil pasta and balance a checkbook in the same afternoon. When she met me, she saw something solid. A man with savings. A plan. A future that did not involve eviction notices or dollar store dinners. She said I had everything she thought she needed. And the worst part? She said it like she thought I would understand. Like I should feel honored. I just nodded. That was all I could do. Nodded like an idiot while my whole world tilted sideways. But that was not the end of it. Not by a long shot. Because then she said one more thing, and that is when I felt the floor truly drop out beneath me. She said she had been planning to leave, just not yet. Those words hit me like a punch to the throat. She had been planning to leave me. Not maybe. Not hypothetically. She had a timeline. A real plan. She told me it was supposed to happen next spring. After she finished a certification program she had enrolled in quietly. Said she needed to be able to stand on her own first. Build her career, stack up some savings, and then go. It was all so neat. So cold. She had thought it through down to the apartment complex she wanted to move into, one of those modern buildings downtown with a gym and a dog park. She even knew the exact date their spring leasing opened. And all that time, she had been smiling at me over dinner, texting me sweet messages during the day, and making love to me like we were still in some kind of romantic dream. But behind every laugh, every kiss, there was a finish line she was quietly running toward. I asked her why she was telling me this now. She hesitated, then told me she had started to feel guilty, that I had been too good to her, that maybe I deserved to know before she went through with it. Like I was some charity case she felt bad ghosting. And you want to know the real kicker? She said she still wanted to be friends, wanted us to stay close after the split. I remember standing up, pacing the living room while my heart tried to outrun itself. The couch, the kitchen table, the framed photo from our honeymoon, it all felt like part of some giant inside joke I had never been let in on. That whole night, I barely spoke. I could not find words big enough to hold the weight of what she had just confessed. And then something else started to twist in my gut. Something darker. Because if she had planned all of this, what else had she been hiding? And that is when I checked the bank accounts. I do not know what exactly made me do it. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was self-preservation kicking in. But while she was in the shower that night, I sat down at my laptop and pulled up every financial statement I could access. Business account, joint checking, savings, credit card history, everything. At first, nothing screamed trouble. A couple of impulse buys here and there, but nothing outrageous. Madison had always been a little spendy, but it was within reason. At least that was what I had believed. But then I opened a folder I rarely touched. The one with automatic transfers I set up years ago when we first got married. It showed recurring withdrawals I had never noticed before. Every second Friday of the month, like clockwork, $500 was being moved to an account I did not recognize. It was under her name, but not linked to any of our shared accounts. A completely separate bank. Quiet, untraceable unless you were really looking. I felt a chill spread across my arms. In less than 3 years of marriage, she had quietly siphoned over $18,000. That is more than what some people make in half a year. All taken in small, quiet bites. Not enough to trip alarms. Just enough to build her own private parachute. I sat there staring at the screen, my hands numb on the keyboard. $18,000. My money. Money I had worked for. Money that was supposed to be ours. And she had been funneling it to her escape plan all along. By the time she came out of the bathroom, wrapped in that pale blue towel I had bought her for Christmas, I was sitting in the dark. I did not say a word. She asked if I was okay. I told her I was fine. Because now, I had a plan too. But I was not going to run. No, I was going to stay exactly where I was. Because if she thought she had secrets, she had no idea what I had been hiding. Truth is, I had my own file tucked away. Not something I ever thought I would need. Not something I even wanted to keep. But years back, I started collecting little things. Not out of spite. Out of instinct. You see, Madison came into my life fast, and it was too good. So I did what any guy with a messed up past does when he finally finds something that feels stable. I kept a backup plan. Quiet. Hidden. Just in case the ground gave way. Emails. Texts. Screenshots. Copies of receipts she thought I threw away. She used to joke that I was overly organized. Said I should loosen up and stop keeping records like I worked for the IRS. But that folder, buried deep in my external drive, held every odd transaction, every sketchy Venmo payment, every girl's trip that never lined up with her location pings. I never confronted her back then because love makes you soft. It makes you second-guess the signs. Until the signs grab you by the throat. Turns out, she had not just been saving money. She had been using me. Using my name. My credit. One of the credit cards I had opened back when we got married, a shared line I barely touched, had a balance. Over $7,000. She had told me she never used it. But I saw the charges. Hotel bookings. Spa packages. Some under her name. Some under initials I did not recognize. I looked up one of the hotels. It was not even in our state. It hit me then she had already done trial runs. Dry runs of what life without me would feel like. Weekend escapes. Getaways funded by the man she was planning to walk away from. I sat there and scrolled, slow and quiet, until something new popped up. A wire transfer. To a man named Clay. That was a name I had never heard in my life. My heart slowed. Then it started pounding. Madison had told me once that if I ever lost everything, she would still choose me. That money was never the reason she loved me. But Clay? Clay was the name on a $10,000 transfer labeled New Start. And suddenly, I realized she had not been waiting for spring. She had been stalling for something. Or someone. Clay. That name sat in my chest like a stone. Heavy. Cold. I dug into it the only way I knew how, started tracing what little I had. Reverse phone lookups, old social media connections, tagged photos. Turns out, Clay was real. Very real. And from what I could piece together, he was more than just a name on a wire transfer. He worked in real estate. Ran some flashy little Instagram page where he posted daily motivation quotes like he had invented hard work. The kind of guy who took mirror selfies at the gym, called people boss, and sold the dream of freedom on a leased sports car. But what really made my stomach turn was the photo I found from 2 months ago. Madison. With him. It was not intimate, at least not in a physical way. Just the two of them, sitting on a rooftop patio with drinks, staring out over some skyline I did not recognize. But it was the look on her face. That quiet smile. Relaxed. Familiar. Like she belonged. I recognized that expression. She used to look at me like that. Now I was just the wallet she leaned on while planning her exit. I did not confront her. Not yet. I was not ready. Instead, I started rehearsing everything. Going over every word I might say. Every move I might make. But no version of it gave me peace. Because this was not just about love lost anymore. This was about betrayal with a strategy behind it. One night, I laid in bed next to her while she slept. Her breathing was calm, one arm slung over my chest like we were still newlyweds. But all I could see were the lies wrapped around every breath. That was when it hit me. She was never going to leave me. Not really. Because she thought I would never leave her. She believed I was too safe. Too predictable. Too good to ever throw her out. But what she did not realize was that people like me, people who come from nothing, we know how to burn it all down and start again. And then came the twist. Because 3 days later, Clay showed up at my job. And he was not there to talk business. It happened late on a Wednesday. One of those heavy, airless afternoons where the heat seems to press into your skin like a warning. I had just locked up the shop. My last call of the day canceled on me, so I figured I would get home early, maybe grill something. I was halfway to my truck, keys jangling in my hand, when I heard it. Ethan. I turned, expecting maybe a customer who had missed closing time. But it was not a customer. It was a man I had never seen before in my life. Black SUV idling at the curb, license plate from out of state. He stepped toward me like we had business. Aviator shades, perfectly ironed shirt, that casual swagger you see in guys who always think they are the smartest one in the room. I did not need him to introduce himself. I already knew. Clay. Figured it was time we met, he said, with that politician smile like he was here to offer me a deal. I stood still, did not shake his hand, did not even blink. He told me he had just gotten into town, had been meaning to stop by. He knew who I was, obviously, knew about my business. Even complimented the signage out front like this was some kind of meet and greet. Then he got to the point. Said Madison had told him she was ending things with me soon. Said she was grateful for the years I gave her. Those were his words. Grateful. Like I had been doing community service. I asked him what the hell he wanted. He laughed. Laughed like the whole thing was some joke I just was not in on. Then he leaned against the hood of his car and told me the real reason he came. Madison was pregnant, and there was a chance the baby was his. I felt the world tilt. Not spin, tilt. Slow and nauseating, like I was slipping off balance, but everything around me stayed still. He said it calm, like he was offering me information, not blowing up my life. Then he said one last thing before walking back to his car. She says you'll take care of her no matter what. That's what makes you the safe one. And just like that, I knew I had never been her husband. I had been her insurance policy. That night, I did not sleep. Madison lay beside me, curled up under the comforter like she did every night, breathing slow and steady like the world outside her dreams had not started crumbling. I just stared at the ceiling in silence, wondering how many lies could fit between two people sharing a bed. Her words echoed in my head. Safe, grateful, not love. And now pregnant. By morning, something inside me had settled. Not with peace. With purpose. I made breakfast like I always did. Pancakes, eggs, 2 strips of bacon for her, for me. She smiled at the plate like everything was normal. Like she had not quietly built a second life behind my back. I asked her how she was feeling lately. She said tired, a little off, but nothing major. She never mentioned Clay. Never brought up the pregnancy. No confession. No apology. Just sugar-coated small talk. She even kissed me on the cheek before heading off to her work seminar. She was not the only one good at pretending. That afternoon, I called my buddy Nick. Nick is the kind of guy you only reach out to when you want things handled quietly. Years ago, we did a side job together installing surveillance systems. He owed me a favor. I told him I needed some cameras put up inside the house. Nothing visible. Just motion-activated stuff, audio too, linked to my phone. He never asked why. By the end of the week, I had eyes and ears on every corner of my own home. Kitchen, bedroom, living room, the office where she spent most of her time studying. I hated doing it. Felt sick to my stomach. But I needed to know what else I was not seeing. Within 48 hours, I got more than I bargained for. Clay was not just a distant mistake or a side fling. He had been in our house, on our couch, in our damn kitchen, drinking my coffee from the mug that said, "World's Best Husband." I watched the footage, jaw clenched, while Madison laughed and leaned into him like they had done it 100 times before. She told him she was nervous. He said, "Do not worry. Ethan will take care of things. He always does." That was it. The final nail. I realized then that they did not just think I was safe. They thought I was stupid. Disposable. A stepping stone on the way to a better view. I could have gone nuclear. Could have printed stills, sent them to her family, burned every bridge in one loud explosion. But I had a better idea. See, there was one thing Madison never bothered learning about me. I am not just good with tools and ductwork. I am good with numbers. Very good. Over the next few days, I made some quiet moves. Shut down our joint accounts. Transferred every penny from our shared savings into my business fund. Canceled her access to the credit cards. Froze the credit line. I even removed her from the business paperwork she had never touched anyway, but liked to brag about at dinner parties. Then I started the paperwork. Annulment, not divorce, because what we had was built on a lie. I did not tell her yet. Timing mattered, and I was not done, because the next move, that was going to be personal. And when she found out what I had planned for her and Clay, it would make every lie she told feel like a paper cut compared to what was coming. The day I made my move started out like any other. Madison was on the phone in the kitchen, twirling her hair, pacing barefoot across the tile like a woman who owned the world. I had already packed a duffel bag with my essentials, documents, clothes, laptop, the things I knew she would try to keep if things went sideways. She had no clue what was coming. She was mid-laugh when I stepped into the kitchen with a cup of coffee and handed her a folded piece of paper. She took it without looking, still talking. Then her eyes caught the header, petition for annulment. Everything about her stilled. The phone slid down her cheek. The smile vanished. She whispered my name like a question, but I did not answer it. I just told her I knew. Everything. About Clay. The account. The lies. The pregnancy. Her face went pale. I did not yell. I did not scream. I just laid out the facts. I told her the bank accounts were empty, transferred legally, since I had funded them. I told her she was removed from every business tie, every asset she once bragged about. I told her the cameras had caught it all, her and Clay, right here, using my home like it was a waiting room for the next phase of their life. She stood there, shaking, lips parted like she was trying to figure out which mask to put on. Would she cry? Apologize? Get angry? She chose silence. I told her I would not be dragging her name through court. I would not expose her unless I had to. But I made it clear, she was not getting a dime. The house, mine. The car, in my name. The savings, gone. She asked where I would go. I smiled and said, somewhere honest. And then I left. But that was not the end. A week later, I mailed a copy of the footage to Clay. No warning. No message. Just a flash drive and a sticky note that read, "She is all yours now. Good luck." It did not take long. By the end of the month, Clay had dumped her, moved back to his state, ghosted her completely. I know this because Madison tried calling me 8 missed calls in 2 days, followed by a long, desperate email that started with, "I made a mistake," and ended with, "Can we talk?" She even showed up outside the shop. Sitting in her car, eyes red, hair undone, like she had finally run out of backup plans. She begged me for a conversation. Said she was lost. Said the baby was mine after all. That part made me pause. Not because I believed her, but because I had already filed for a paternity test through my lawyer. She did not know that yet. So I leaned in close and said the last thing I ever said to her. "Madison, I loved you with everything I had. And you turned that into a strategy." She reached out to touch my arm. But I stepped back. And then I shut the door. Because the man she married is gone. And the one standing here now? He knows better. The day the test results came in, I opened the envelope with hands that felt strangely calm. Like my body already knew the answer, even if my brain still wanted to brace for impact. I sat alone at the kitchen table, mine again, in a house that had gone quiet since Madison left. The walls still echoed with what used to be, but it felt different now. Cleaner. Honest. The letter was short. One sentence confirmed everything. Probability of paternity, 0%. I did not cry. I did not feel rage. I just sat there, letting the silence do the talking. All the doubt, the spinning questions, the part of me that wondered what if I was wrong, it vanished. Gone like smoke in a cold wind. Madison had been lying until the very end. And Clay? He had run the second things got real. Left her behind without a trace. No love, no support, just the echo of a shared lie that finally turned on her. I thought I would feel vindicated, like maybe justice had been served. But if I am being honest, it just made me tired. Tired of giving pieces of myself to people who only saw value in what I could provide. Tired of chasing some picture-perfect life built on someone else's idea of success. I spent the next few days cleaning out the house. Not just her things, every trace of the version of myself that let it all happen. I tore out the rug she picked, painted over the walls she insisted had to be eggshell and nothing else. I even donated the glass dining table she loved but never let us actually eat on. I kept one thing, though. A cheap little photo booth stripped from a fair we went to during our first year together. For blurry pictures of two people smiling like they had forever ahead of them. I do not know why I kept it. Maybe to remind myself that not every part of it was a lie. Maybe because, deep down, I needed to know I had not imagined it all. But I tucked it away, out of sight. Months passed. My business picked up. I hired 2 new guys, bought a second truck, started putting money into a property I had always dreamed about owning. For the first time in years, I woke up without anxiety gnawing at my chest. I stopped checking my phone every 5 minutes. I started sleeping through the night again. People asked about Madison sometimes. I kept it simple. I told them it did not work out. That sometimes people come into your life to teach you a lesson, not to stay. And if they pressed, I just smiled and said, she married me for money. I left her for peace. But here's the part one do not say out loud. It still hurts. Not every day, not like before, but sometimes. Like when I drive past that fairground, or hear a song she used to hum without thinking. The ghost of what I thought we were still lingers in the quiet places. But it does not control me anymore. Because what I learned, what I earned through all of it, is this. Love without honesty is just performance. And safety without respect is just a cage. Madison saw me as a guarantee. Clay saw her as a convenience. But now? Now I see myself as free. And for the first time in a long, long while, that is enough. If you enjoyed the story, like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments, was I right to walk away?